Welcome to the afternoon session, and it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Florence Hudson. Florence is Senior Vice President and Chief Innovation Officer for Internet 2. Very pleased to have her here. You've been there for about a year, right? Just about a year or so. We're very pleased to welcome Florence here. She's a mechanical and aerospace engineering by training, worked for Grumman, NASA, HP, and IBM. It says here that she spent 33 years at IBM. I'm figuring that they hired her as a young girl to pull the little chads out of the cards because it was so they go through the machines better. Where she created engineering and scientific solutions. She's worked on smart cities, grids, building, water management, Internet of Things strategies, and now she's leading Internet 2's collaborative innovation program, including the Internet of Things, distributed big data analytics, end-to-end trust security innovation working groups, and all other buzzword compliant programs. So pleased to welcome you here today, Florence, and looking forward to hearing you speak about key information and communication technology trends. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's beautiful outside, isn't it? Thank you for coming in from outside. This is the type of day that we would say, Professor, could we go outside for class? Remember that? So I'm really delighted to be here. And we're going to talk about a study that Internet 2's Chief Innovation Office did the second half of last year. Actually, I just had my one-year anniversary last week at Internet 2, which is really cool. It's been a lot of fun working with people just like you. And we did this because we really wanted to get a view of kind of where the puck is going. Because as a Chief Innovation Officer, you know, what I need to look at is how we can help you get to the future, how we help the universities get to the future, how we help identify what we need to do to develop the leaders of the future, where the researchers are going to be focusing, how we can help them collaborate together. So that was the purpose of this view of key information and communication technology trends for the research and education community. So just to give a little background, and I've lived through most of this, but I was not there in 1890 when they did the census, just so you know. I've been around for a while. I still carry my punch cards here. I actually still write on them. They're really good. They're like the perfect size to carry with you. So I still carry them around. I do have a stash. If you need some, let me know. But if we look at, you know, what the evolution of IT has been like over the years, we look, you know, back to the census days around 1890 when they had a tabulating system. And then they went to programmable systems. You might remember that. Anyone use BASIC, Fortran, PL1? Oh, so fun. Remember that? So I did that too. And now we're going to the cognitive computing age, you know, where computers can learn after you teach them how to think, you know, kind of like a child. And then we look at the computing world, the centralized computers, the mainframe computers. I was VP of Marketing and Strategy for the mainframe for a while at IBM. Anyone lived through the times when they had like those beehive areas where you went and got your printouts, the green and white dot matrix? No one's that old. Oh, yay, okay, a couple people, thank you. I love when there are some compatriots in the audience. So that's how bad it was. Then it went to distributed computing, and all the IT people were like, oh my God, we're going to be so out of control. Look at all these distributed computers. Now look at the Internet of Things, right? We thought that was distributed. They were like, it's like the tribbles. Oh my gosh, they multiply when the lights go out, you know, but now it's even worse. Then we got to the World Wide Web, personal computing, cloud computing, and really computing everywhere. And then as you look at data, remember years ago in the systems, it was like the family jewels of the enterprise data, you know, the banking data, the HR data. Now there's data being created all over the place. You know, there's mobile data, social data, so much veracity, as they say, the uncertainty about the data. You know, do you know that the sensor hasn't been hacked? Do you know that it's actually the data you think? Do you know if it's social media, if it's a fact or an opinion? Many times an opinion. So how do you use that type of information? And then big data and analytics. How do you actually analyze the data to do something useful with it? And then with the Internet of Things, it really changes the game because the data is everywhere, it's coming from everywhere, and the devices are everywhere. So we looked at this whole view, and then we actually looked at 100 sources. I can send you the source document list if you want. So this is what we call secondary market research. We didn't do primary research asking people in particular, but I will talk about an ECAR report that just came out about this. And we looked at areas that were going to have a very positive impact on the planet. So why is that important? Well, there's one thing. There's a lot of economic value that can be created in these areas. Why is that important? Because there's investment in it. Investment can go to the researchers and education entities that are actually creating the future and the students and the research. So it was where there's economic value, which could be increased revenue, it could be reduced cost, or it can be improved efficiencies. That's how, if you look at a McKinsey report, they'll talk about economic value. Being a network, we also looked at, okay, which of these things have a lot of data in them? And then also, which would have a very important impact in research and education? There's a lot of discovery required, a lot of invention is still required, and we need to create, ooh, I should go over here. I'm Italian, I walk and I move my hands. Okay, I'll go back here. Thank you, sorry. Thank you for warning me. And so we also need to look at how we create the leaders of the future in these areas. So when we looked at all those parameters, we came out with like a top 3 and then 7 supporting areas. So the top 3 areas we identified were the Internet of Things, which could have $11 trillion in economic value by 2025, which would be 11% of global GDP. Very interesting. If you look at IT itself, not IoT, which is informational operational technology together, IT is about 5% of global GDP. And it makes sense if you put the physical devices with the digital, that maybe it's twice as much. Interesting. Healthcare and life sciences, and this would just be like the digital view where technology is really making a big difference. The Internet of Medical Things, the journey to precision medicine and leveraging a lot of data, genomic data with clinical research and clinical care data. If you added the actual healthcare, it would dwarf everything in the economic value and the cost. And then smart cities, smart grid, and then smart campus would be an instantiation of that, a campus being like a city. And then there are these 7 supporting technology areas. Mobile internet, which has a lot of overlap with all these. It's what I call a gazinta. It goes into the rest of them. So it goes into Internet of Things. It goes into healthcare and life sciences with the Internet of Medical Things. And it goes into smart cities and smart grid because there's a lot of mobility. And interestingly, when you think of the mobile internet, usually we think of our cute little devices that we carry around with pictures of our kids and our dogs and our cats. But actually, when you start thinking about smart cities, a mobile device could be a car. It could be a kid riding a bicycle. It could be the helmet on the kid riding a bicycle. Very interesting. About 15 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, I was doing some work on future strategic issues and opportunities, and I was reading the Boeing annual report, the guys who make airplanes. And they had this diagram in their annual report, and next to the picture of a plane, it didn't say aircraft or airplane. It said high velocity moving platform. I was like, wow. When I see something like that that makes no sense to me, I try to put it in a little bucket, like there's something I don't understand here. That was a hat tip to today. It's a high velocity moving platform to sell you blankets, food, alcohol, seats, right? Very interesting. So at that time, they were going to what I call the razor and razor blade model, but we just didn't know it yet. You buy the razor, which is your plane ticket, and then you get to keep buying razor blades, right? Which is everything else you buy on the plane. Very interesting. So mobile internet, cloud computing, which we're all living with now, software-defined anything. We tend to talk about software-defined networks. There could be a lot of different things. One of the areas that came up in our end-to-end trust and security working group was the advent and the potential for software-defined perimeters. And there's a version 1 of the spec that the Cloud Security Alliance created, and we had them presented to us. They're actually looking for collaborators to go to version 2, so if you want to help, let me know. I'll get you guys connected. 3D printing, which doesn't look like a very big thing right now, but I think it's going to be huge. I mean, imagine when they say that you can 3D print an airplane. You know how much data that must be? I think I would guess it has to be a lot. There's a lot of stuff, and it's not just the fuselage, it's everything in it, right? There's a lot of stuff there. Cybersecurity, which is always non-intuitive to people, it's so important, but the economic value isn't deemed to be very high. If you look at the economic risk, that number would be a lot bigger, I think. Big data and analytics, and then cognitive computing. So what I want to do is just take you through like a little journey through these areas, and then see what it is we can do to help develop the future. So the Internet of Things, we said, could be an $11 trillion opportunity in economic value. Well, what does that mean? It can go across many industries. There are smart vehicles that people are looking at, connected or autonomous vehicles. One of the things that scares me the most is when people say, oh, it'll be so much safer when we have self-driving cars. And I'm going to show you a car hack that should scare everything out of you. And that's part of what we have to work on as a community, and the researchers are working on already, or starting to, is what does end-to-end trust and security look like for the Internet of Things? And so I'll talk a little bit more about that. We've been leading some discussions and workshops with IEEE and NSF on that. And as the physical world becomes connected, we have all these things connected to each other. It's like Carl Sagan's billions and billions, but you don't have to go out to the galaxy anymore, it's right here. And then when you look at the amount of data, we talk about petabytes, exabytes, and there are zettabytes, yada, 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 yada bytes. And then Bronto bites. Who's heard of Bronto bites? Isn't that cool? So, you know, they say, oh, you're such a dinosaur. It will be cool to be a dinosaur again, which I'm really excited about. So actually, when I did this talk, a similar one at Indiana University in the fall, I had a little flash drive, and I printed out my Brontosaurus, and I put it on the flash drive. And so I gave the host, I said, oh, and here's the first Bronto bite flash drive. So it's very interesting. We're just going to have a lot of data that needs to be managed. And if you really look at the amount of new data being created, the enterprise data, which was always the family jewels, is becoming less and less percentage of all the data on the planet. A lot of social media data, a lot of sensor data, and it's really just going to be increasing. So there's the good, the bad, and the ugly with most things in life, right? So the good is all this opportunity. You can make things work better. You could have a Nest thermostat that connects to your Whirlpool dryer. It knows if you're home or not based on if your cell phone is in the house. If you're not home and the dryer's about to go off, then the Nest thermostat tells the Whirlpool dryer to go on wrinkle release till you get home. Interesting. I was talking to Whirlpool and I said, what if I just left my cell phone at home? And they went, I said, okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop asking questions. That's what happens when you're an engineer, right? But now what I want to do is to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So has anyone looked at any of these hacks, the Prius or Jeep hack yet online? So the Prius hack was done a few years ago. The same two guys did it. They're just, you know, the bane of a lot of people's existence, but they're showing we have challenges we have to fix. The Prius hack was connected. So they pulled apart the dashboard and they connected via wire laptops and sat in the back seat and, you know, just messed everything up for the driver. This one is done wirelessly from these guys' house. So let's take a look at this together and see if we should be worried.
SUV's brakes hacked just as you're parking in front of a ditch.
Okay, hold on tight. Hold on. Oh,
That's what I've learned from Charlie Miller and Chris Valasek, a pair of hackers who have spent the last year developing a piece of software that can wirelessly sabotage this 2014 Jeep Cherokee. It hasn't been altered in any way. There are no devices attached to it. But like many thousands of Jeeps around the world, it can be remotely hacked over the internet through a cellular connection to its entertainment system that would allow someone to take over its steering, its transmission, and even its brakes. To demonstrate that, I'm going to act as today's crash test dummy and drive it on the highway here in St. Louis, while Charlie and Chris hijack its digital systems from Charlie's house miles away. They wouldn't tell me what they had planned, but they assured me that it wouldn't be anything life-threatening.
remember, Andy, no matter what happens, don't panic.
It's not the first time I've driven a car while it's being attacked by these two hackers. But in 2013, they were in the back seat, and their laptops were wired into the vehicle through a port in its dashboard. Now they're sending the same sort of attacks remotely, and I have no idea what they might do.
He's going as fast as I've seen him, so.
So first we're going to turn the fan on him.
Yeah, let's turn the fan on, see if he even notices.
All right, something just turned on, all the fans and AC and stuff. I didn't do that. The trick started small. Oh my God. There's a picture of Charlie and Chris in tracksuits that just appeared on the dashboard. But as I drove down the interstate, things started getting unpleasant and very loud. Perfect. I can't turn it down.
This was such a fun video. Steve, I'll kick it off to George.
And now the air conditioning is blasting, the music is blasting, and I can't see anything because of the windshield wiper fluid.
Okay, do it. Do it. Kill the engine.
So we're killing the engine right now.
It says park sense. Actually can't accelerate. I stomped on the gas, but the Jeep slowed to a crawl. It says 43 miles an hour, but I'm not going that fast. I turned on my hazard lights, but I was still stuck in the right lane with no shoulder to escape onto. Guys, I'm stuck on the highway.
What did he say?
I don't know, I think he's panicking. He's not going to be able to hear us with that radio. It's so loud.
Guys, I need the accelerator to work again.
The accelerator will work.
It won't work!
You're doomed.
Seriously, it's dangerous. I need to move.
You got to turn the car off!
Okay.
Now you should be good to go. Semi drove by.
All right, I'm going to pull over because I have PTSD. Charlie and Chris have only tested the full range of their attacks on a Jeep Cherokee. But they say that hundreds of thousands of late model Chrysler vehicles may be vulnerable through a feature called Uconnect, an internet-connected computer in the dashboard known as its head unit.
These cars head units expose a particular service that probably they didn't want to. It lets you do things like query it for information like the GPS or the VIN or all sorts of other things, but it also lets you just run commands.
So you have to first break into the car remotely over the cell network and then move laterally if you want to do things like send CAN messages. And those are the messages that we can use to control things like steering or the windshield wipers or braking.
They plan to release a portion of their exploit code at the annual Black Hat Hacker Conference next month. They've also alerted Chrysler, which is issuing a security patch. But they say a lot more needs to be done to protect a new generation of cars that are increasingly connected to the internet and potentially hackable. You guys basically brought this car to a standstill while it was driving on the highway, which I may never forgive you for. And that was just like an experiment. What do you think is the worst case scenario?
We wanted to point out, to show that this attack has serious consequences for this vehicle. And so we did, attack you. But we did it in as safe a way as we could, so we didn't want you to get hurt, obviously. That's why we're working, is to make sure that we figure out vulnerabilities, weaknesses, get them fixed.
We're only two guys with one car, right? So, we can't look at every car, and we want to release this information because more people like us need to be focused on this problem.
After their stunt on the highway, Chris and Charlie still wanted to show me a couple of other tricks. Below a certain speed, they can control the Jeep steering as long as it's in reverse, pop its locks, mess with the speedometer, and, of course, disable the brakes. Okay, hold on tight. Hold on.
He's not getting out of that.
I think so.
We're going to be doing some pushing.
That's how you drive in the Midwest. New Yorkers don't know how to do that.
Okay, anybody worried? Exactly. The next time somebody says to you, it'll be so much safer when cars drive themselves, tell them to go look at this video. And actually, this is one of the reasons that our end-to-end trust and security working group and our Internet of Things working group decided we need them, and they started working together. And on February 4th, we hosted a workshop that IEEE paid for, God bless them, and the National Science Foundation provided some funding for the travel for Internet 2 members. We had about 20 or 25 come. And it was about end-to-end trust and security, open architectures for the Internet of Things. And so what we have in mind is that if we can create an open architecture, then everybody can execute it to keep as many humans safe and alive as possible when the idiots on the planet try to do things like this. And it's the way you execute it that makes it secure. So if you think of technologies like the old mainframe that has an encryption facility, I mean, everyone knows it has one, but all the banks use it because it's really good, So you can create an open architecture with specifications like, random number generators, key pairs, encryption, and different elements, including what we call defense in depth. So the defense in depth methodology is really thinking of how deep you can go on the security and trust and identity side. And so as an example, in the healthcare device, you could have an insulin pump. And there was a gentleman at the Black Hat conference that actually hacked his own insulin pump to prove it could be done. And it can. And you may remember, I think it was Homeland or something, when Dick Cheney was in office and they hacked the heart device. He's like, oh, thanks, that was great timing, right? And all of this can actually be done. It's all hackable. So if we talk about defense in depth, what we have to do is bring together a whole community. So as an example, if you had an insulin pump, I'll just use there's a vendor who makes the pump. I won't use any names since we're taping this. And so there's another vendor that makes the IP for the design of the chip that goes into the pump. What if there was a unique identifier in every chip? Then what about the firm who makes the chip? Then there's the firmware level, the software level, the service level. There's the MyCloud or whatever it is, or the router it goes through, the network, the cloud itself, data at rest, data in motion. And then what about the doctor that's looking at the insulin pump? What about the doctor who looks at it and then can change how much you're getting? What if they go rogue? What if it's not actually the doctor? How often do we check the process to make sure that we know that we trust the identity of the individual and the device and the user, that some little kid didn't go to grandma's house and put it on because they thought it was cool, God forbid. They're getting a different reading and then they change it and grandma gets it. It could really be tragic for everybody. So there's a lot to do in this space, and this is an example of how we focus on an area, work with our community of NRENs around the world, National Research Education Networks like Cenic or ESnet in Australia, HGANet in Ireland. We work with vendors or partners, industry players. Cisco is part of Internet 2. Anyone who is can participate. And then we also work with the educators and with the researchers, which is really valuable because then we can start working on this together. So as you look at this, so now we looked at a little bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's talk about how the government's trying to help. So you may have heard about the White House Smart Cities Initiative and the Metro Lab project that was announced last fall in September. And there are actually a number of universities and regions in California that are participating. UCSD is involved in the San Diego region. San Jose State is involved. I'm going up to University of Washington actually to do a similar presentation on Thursday where we're going to be talking about this. And they're actually looking for more cohorts. So what we've done is we've created a Smart Campus initiative, and I'd love to have a California campus involved. So I'm asking if anybody wants to come and get engaged in this. I would love it. And we have a CIO advisory council that's identifying areas they want to focus on. And actually, we're going to have our first meeting at the Internet 2 Global Summit on the Sunday, May 15th-ish in Chicago. And we have Gordon Wishon from Arizona State University, who has been involved in the Sun Devil Stadium there, the smart stadium they put a bunch of sensors and stuff into, and he's going to present the reality, what they did, what they were hoping, how much it costs, what they get out of it. So we share best practices and come up with new ideas of what we need to do. Another cool idea to think about, and this is where I think getting education and curriculum involved in this was really fun, is we think about what if you look at these smart cities or smart campuses as a system of systems. And if you wanted a little long 15-minute version of this, I did a TED Talk on this a few years ago. If you Google Florence Hudson TED Talk, you'll find it. And so if you think of this as like a smart grid project where the Pacific Northwest National Lab worked with the state of Oregon and Washington, and they actually had a smart grid project where they sent pricing signals to houses and had little grid-friendly adapters on the Whirlpool dryers. This was way before they actually started delivering them last year at Consumer Electronics Show. And so the dryers could decide when to go on when the price was the lowest for the energy. Very interesting. What it actually allowed them to do is to flatten out the peak load on the grid, which means then you don't have to build all these additional power plants and stuff like that. Then you can do smart transportation systems. Like in Stockholm, Sweden, they decided that they wanted to improve the environment and reduce traffic congestion. So they did a whole system of systems where they said, well, let's do some charging, extra tolling at certain times of day to change traffic patterns. Well, if we're going to do that, people still have to get to work, so let's increase mass transportation before we do that. So they did all this together, and they ended up saving, they reduced traffic by 15 to 25%, reduced greenhouse gas, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide emissions. They had sensors all over the city by up to 30%. Very interesting. So you can do some really interesting things. And then you can have smart buildings, but what if you did this all together? So go with me for a minute to this idea. Let's say that you actually had more plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, and let's say that you actually charge different amounts at different times for you to charge your electric vehicle in different places. So let's say that in your community, in your neighborhood, it was cheapest for you to recharge your car between 6 and 7 in the morning. Let's say in your neighborhood, it was cheapest between 8 and 9 in the morning. And let's say it was at 2 and 3 in the afternoon when it was cheapest to do it at your office. Very interesting. So could you actually change traffic patterns by linking the smart grid with the smart transportation systems, with the smart home, with the smart buildings? Oh my gosh, how do you do that? It requires working as a team together. So these are some of the ideas that we can get some of the students to consider and actually do something about. Smart grid is a key part of a lot of these smart city systems. That's where you get a lot of the energy. And one of the opportunities that we have as research and education networks is to provide test beds for this. So one thing that Internet 2 did recently with Cornell is Cornell University. We actually proposed using the Internet 2 network as a smart grid test bed. We work with a lot of different industry players and universities. As I mentioned, if you want to participate in the smart cities with us, let us know. And my time is way cut down. You sure? I only have 5 minutes? Really? It was 45 minutes, right? Oh my gosh, that went so fast. Okay, good. So I think I still have 20 minutes. You're teasing me. I had brothers, though. I'm really used to this. So that's why God does that, I told my daughter. So in the Internet of Medical Things, you actually have all these challenges we talked about, so I won't go any further. But let's talk about the happiness again. So this is an example we heard from the telehealth system here in California yesterday. UPMC, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, has been a real leader in telemedicine and telehealth for a long time. Being in Pennsylvania, there are a lot of rural areas, where the farmers are out there and they don't have the time to actually drive all the way to Pittsburgh to get their medical care, or it could be something urgent. And here's an example of a woman who actually was having a health event. Oopsie. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, you want to do it? Thank you. Second one in the middle. Oh, you're going to stop that? Yeah, the first one has to be stopped. Okay, I can do that here. Between us, we're a good team. Okay, thank you. So let's look at this one now.
I was applying my makeup, and my husband goes, "Oh my God, she's having a stroke." When I got to the emergency room, the doctor from UPMC was on the screen from Pittsburgh asking me questions. Try to move your fingers, try to touch your nose, lift your left leg. I could not do it.
In the midst of a stroke, every minute counts. With telemedicine, I can get to the emergency room 2 hours away faster than I can get to our own emergency room because I don't have to wait for the elevators. We're able to get that expertise to where the patients are.
He made the decision to give me a shot. Within minutes, it was already working. Everything was coming back. It was divine intervention.
Every minute that we can shave off is a life changer.
All my life I've rescued, and UPMC rescued me. I didn't choose to have a stroke, but I will always choose UPMC.
And this is the type of value that the Internet of Things and high-speed networks can actually help, because if she had a wearable on, they could be getting all those vital statistics on the way to the hospital, and then at the hospital they can see how quickly things are changing, and it really brings a lot of value. And it's what we can all enable together. So that's on the telemedicine side. Now let's go a little farther in this. When you look at the mobile internet, it really enables the Internet of Things, smart cities and campuses, and healthcare, as we were just talking about. And if you look at the industries that can affect the most, healthcare perhaps can be the greatest benefit. And I'd like to show one other little happygram. This is actually a video that Kaiser Permanente, who's a healthcare provider here, a lot of people probably know who they are, did a number of years ago. And it shows an aspirational view of healthcare. So I'll talk you through this a little bit. So here's Grandma. She's looking at where she's going. Oh, okay, she's going to go to Oakland. She lives in Pennsylvania. Oh, she has her little glucose meter on. Wow, her mirror knows her glucose level. You see any privacy issues? I wonder what privacy issues are with mirrors. Oh, now she's in the kitchen. Okay, let's see. Oh, those are my snacks. Well, thank you. Oh, gosh. Did you hear something about spamming fridges? But that's okay, we won't worry about that. Okay, so now this is her daughter, where she's going to go visit, and Tyler, their child, has asthma. Oh, there's a heat wave alert. Wow, I could use this when my kids were little. Okay, she has the puffer, good to go, good mommy, she's ready. So they're going out, and oh, look what's going on at the hospital. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the hospital, they're scanning the environment, and oh, let's see. Oh, there's an alert, a recommendation generated. Oh, heat wave alert. Okay, what do I do? Oh, we need one additional care team. Oh, okay, well, let's see. Oh, we'll pick these people, and surprise, you're on call. This is why people turn off their cell phones when they're not at work. Oh, they pick her up. Hi, Mom. Hi, thanks for getting me. Of course, we love you. Okay, they're out at a picnic. Oh, look at this. So their kid has this device, and it's analyzing them. Heart rate, respiration. Mom can see it's a low asthma attack risk. Wow, I like that. That's neat. So, oh no, Grandma, uh-oh. No, I'm a little faint. No, I'm okay. No, Mom, no, I'm okay, really, I'm okay. No, really, I'll be fine, no. Oh, son-in-law of the year, got this under control. Access KP Mobile, virtual triage, go to urgent care. Okay, here we go, Mom. Okay, let's see, which is the shortest way? Okay, I'll get with the fastest, lowest wait time. Perfect, thank you for that virtual triage. Bye, Grandma, feel better. Okay. Oh, and a little healthcare information exchange, how easy is that? You just put your fingerprint on the iPad, and then you get the medical information from Geisinger to Heiser like that. What's the big deal anyway? Okay, they go to the hospital, doctor checks it out, Geisinger patient, okay, she's not local. Okay, hi, how are you doing? Oh, I'm okay, okay. Let's see, okay, let's look a little bit. Okay, blood pressure's okay, but we have some things going on here. You might be a little dehydrated. Okay. Let me get you some help. Okay, I need an IV pump. Not a problem. I have this cute little thing, and it shows me where all the IV pumps are. No one can hide them for when they need them. Okay, go get one. Okay, now this is my favorite toy. Oh, let's check this out. I want one of those for Christmas. So it doesn't hurt so much. Oh, then I got a nice little note from to Grandma. Oh, it's so easy to send her an email. I wonder how easy it is to get data out of the system. Oh, don't worry about that. Okay, let's see. Okay, oh, let's do a little video chatting with her primary care doctor back home. How's she doing? Well, this is what it usually looks like. Okay, okay. Okay, well, I'm glad she went in, but she's fine. You see, I told you I was fine. Okay, well, that's good. Everyone's happy. Happy family. Let's do a little tweeting now that everybody's fine. Now, this is the job I want someday when I really retire. A nurse, Twitter, and social media expert. Doesn't this look like fun? Happy family? Ooh, they like me. I'm gonna like them. Excelente. Okay, Grandma, glad you're better. Oh, me too. Good job. So that's an aspirational view of healthcare leveraging the Internet of Things. Pretty nice, huh? I know. You're right, they did not show the bill. You're absolutely right. You guys are quick, I knew that. So there are a lot of very positive things that can happen with the Internet of Things. Let's look at something else that's going on. A number of you have probably heard about some of the precision medicine ideas that are coming around. And this is the idea that they take all the data they can about genomics, DNA, the environment, the clinical research that's going on around the planet that doctors do not have time to all read. There's some big report that came out in Korea yesterday, India last week. It needs to be translated. I don't have time to read this stuff. I'm a doctor, right? So as you look at precision medicine, it's really about the confluence of genomic data, clinical research, clinical care, environmental data, life sciences data, like what's going on in the soil, what type of antibodies do you have, and connected wearables, and bringing all this together. What a challenge. So the researchers, pure researchers today and clinical researchers are trying to leverage all this data. At some point, we probably need more of a distributed big data and analytics strategy as compared to the petabytes of genomic data you get from NIH. Maybe there are some local, regional, smaller metadata areas or things like that. So these are some of the areas that we think we can all help. And I know there's a lot going on in healthcare here with Cenic and in California. We know that cloud computing is a big opportunity. I don't need to spend a lot of time with this group. Software-defined anything, they say, can reduce IT costs up to 20%. Years ago, you had to buy a lot of separate networking equipment. Then they made it software-defined, so it's kind of Gazinta, another Gazinta. You remember before? It goes into other things, goes into other hardware, and it's software. 3D printing, as we mentioned, I think is going to become very big. There are a lot of people playing with it now on campus. Most campuses have a 3D printer. But as they talk about having 3D printed planes, trains, and automobiles, my goodness, there's going to be a lot of data. But cybersecurity is one of the biggest issues that I think we're going to have. And when we look at this, and we started working with IEEE and NSF more on this, and the whole community of university and industry players, a lot of us are worried about these DDoS attacks, right? Distributed denial of service attacks, which can flood a network, and then you can't get information. You have to cut systems off. God forbid the first day a citizen or a student's insulin pump is hacked, right? DDoS is going to feel like, I know I care about that, but I have to keep people safe. And that's why we're really focused on what we're calling TIPS, trust, identity, privacy, protection, safety, and security of the Internet of Things. Now, cognitive computing is about computers that learn, but they're like children. You have to teach them how to learn. And I'm actually writing a monograph right now, which I just learned what that meant a couple weeks ago. It's like a book. But it's for the Handbook of Statistics on the Internet of Things and cognitive computing and how you could leverage them together. Where cognitive computing could look at all the data in a smart city and then make decisions and actually make recommendations to say, cut this street off. We just got, some information from a sensor on this water pipe, and then there's an accident over there, divert all the traffic over there, increase the tolling over there so it moves the traffic around. You can do things like that with pattern recognition and a cognitive computing system over the Internet of Things data. So I'm inviting anyone who, any of the university members that, work with Internet 2 industry partners can join us, labs and agencies, to join our innovation working groups. These were created by our members. When I started a year ago, we did this survey that all the members, all the 8,800 humans involved with Internet 2 and the 500 institutions we work with, 300 universities and labs and agencies and international partners in industry. And these were the 3 areas they identified. And then end-to-end trust and security, I think I mentioned we had this end-to-end trust and security for IoT workshop. We had 150 people, 35 papers presented, a lot of focus on technology and policy, the TIPS area and software-defined perimeters, as well as network segmentation. And we're always looking for what's the next thing we should think about when we look at the landscape of the future of end-to-end trust and security. In Internet of Things, we have this IoT sandbox, which is a virtual environment right now where we leverage the IoT, IBM Bluemix IoT Foundation in Bluemix, and they created a virtual environment where multiple universities can actually develop IoT applications together in a DevOps environment, which means you develop it and then you operate it, you go use it. And we're working with a couple of cloud vendors to see if we could create a physical IoT sandbox, which would be like a box, like, when you put your holiday stuff away, you go to Home Depot and you get the box, and, maybe has 50 Raspberry Pis or Arduinos or Intel Edisons or whatever's in it, some information on how you connect to the cloud, and then they could develop applications, and that would be really fun. We're looking to try to get that all funded, try to start with universities, and then try to go to community anchor institutions, maybe K through 12, which would be a lot of fun, maybe libraries. I think it could be a lot of fun if we did that. And we have a real focus. You can see a pattern on smart campus and cities, so we started the Smart Campus group, and I told you a little about Smart Grid. We're in the process of doing our healthcare life sciences strategy to see what the challenges are in precision medicine and genomics and cancer research and how we might be able to help. We don't know yet. We're asking questions now. And I actually asked Eric Brown if we could interview him since he works with Telehealth. And if you know of anybody else that could provide great data, we'd love to hear it. And we also have some work going on with digital humanities, which is like the demo that we'll see later today with the simultaneous symphony, as I call it. So what are the real opportunities for research and education? Well, there are a lot of research opportunities. You can create test beds to try, when we do this smart grid research with DARPA, they could actually hack against, a grid and a network that could act like a grid, and so that they can see how they can protect it. We can also look at these IoT sandboxes more broadly and deploy them broadly. And innovations can be created at every level. Remember, we were talking about defense in depth. It could be in the IP of the design of a chip. It could be the device, software, service, many different areas. And we can really all work together to guide healthcare life sciences into the next frontier, into the future of precision medicine, as well as leveraging the Internet of Medical Things. And there's really a potential to positively impact the culture and society. I think smart campuses can be nice little test bed areas that can then deploy into the cities and can help people learn what the cultural implications are as well of some of this new technology, and really creating the future leaders of the IoT economy. So some of the recommendations, when I did a presentation like this last fall, someone said, tell us what to do. I'm like, I try not to do that because it depends who you are. But so here are just some high-level ideas. Develop curricula to build the technical and business leaders of the future economy. There are some schools that have an IoT lab where they can actually play with it. One of them that I know about, the professor that runs it is a professor in the engineering school and the business school. Very interesting. So they can look at the technology innovation and the business model innovation. Like you look at an Uber, that was really a business model innovation, leveraging the Internet of Things. You can create technology innovation through research and testbed programs and new models for improved operational sustainability. And then perhaps work together to attract funding, like this Metro Lab project from the White House, where they're looking to give funding to municipalities and universities to work together on some of these challenges and opportunities. So those are some of the ideas I wanted to share with you today of what we see as key ICT trends for research and education. And I'd love to take your questions or comments. And I think we have a mic if you have a question or comment. If you have no questions, I'd love your comments. Does this seem like about right? Does this shock you? It shocks you a little bit. The guys hacking the car is shocking. It's scary, isn't it? Yeah. Are there?
It's like a solution, hunting for a problem.
Oh, which is the solution?
All this Internet of Things stuff.
Oh, you think it's a solution, hunting for a problem?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, and why do you say that?
I say that because it looks like there's a lot of hype around Internet of Things generally. And so the reaction to that is everyone is thinking about, well, how can I come up with a product that's going to make money? And I get that feeling from a lot of people. For example, I'm getting that out of all the people who are trying to jump on the bandwagon for 5G networking for mobile. What is 5G? It's not defined, and yet, even though it's not defined, Verizon is starting trials in August.
And they tell you need it, right? You need it. You need
Right,
it.
and,
Yeah.
and you're going to really want this, and it's going to be really good, but they don't know what it is yet. And so perhaps that jades me for the whole Internet of Things, but I tend to see that a lot.
I understand what you're saying, and I was like that initially too. I was at an event with John Chambers from Cisco, God bless him, and his father was an evangelical preacher, which really meant, when I learned that, I learned a lot about his style. And he was saying that the economic value opportunity is actually much larger than 11 trillion. I think it was like 20, 30 trillion. I'm like, seriously? God, that's gigantic. That's like 20 to 30% of global GDP. That's a lot. It just feels too big. But then you start looking at things like how people can hack insulin pumps, and how people can hack heart devices, and how people can hack cars. And we're saying, oh, let's connected vehicles. I can't tell you how many, I don't go to a lot of cocktail parties, so how many places I've been where people have said to me, oh, it'll be so much safer when they're connected. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I know what can happen. So I agree with you that there are people, just like the gold rush, that want to go find, where the gold is. But then there are also us pure scientists and researchers where we say we have to protect the humans. We have to protect the humans. And that's where I'm starting it, and that's where our innovation working groups are, because we're a bunch of researchers and educators and academics. If someone wants to go create a startup, God bless them, go for it, or, go do it elsewhere, that's fine. But I think there's a lot of, research that needs to be done actually to protect the humans, very honestly. And that's why I shared a couple of these videos, so we can look at how we can help them. I worked at NASA years ago at the Jet Propulsion Lab, and I was working on future missions around Jupiter, but at the time we were working on Mars and colonizing Mars, and we didn't explain why we wanted to colonize Mars. It wasn't for fun. It was, God forbid, there was a nuclear holocaust here. But we didn't tell anybody that. Why should we scare everybody? Oh, I shouldn't have told you. But anyway, but that was, 40 years ago, right? So I figured, well, let me show you let me show you what's going on now, and so we can actually work on it as a team. But I believe that pure scientists and engineers are really quite pure of heart, and we really do want to make things better. We create things and we fix things, and this needs to be fixed because it's being created. So that's my personal opinion, but every opinion, is I respect. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. Yes?
You talk a little bit about the hype and the security issues, which is the immediate things that a lot of people think about with Internet of Things as they learn about what it is. But I'm wondering what you see as like the key influencers for quality as new products and services get developed. Like, where is that coming from, and how do those examples get set in a way that can have meaning for
So I think there's adult supervision needed. So very honestly, don't you watch this stuff, don't you feel like there needs to be an adult in the room, like making sure this stuff doesn't happen and it gets fixed? So that's why I engage with IEEE, who has, worldwide standards work that they do, with NSF, who can fund the research. The Cybersecurity division, Anita Nikolic, is working closely with us, and she's the one who co-sponsored that event with us that we did. With NIST, because they can create the standards. So, and I've spoken to the White House about it too, the Office of Science and Technology Policy, and the National Coordination Office and NITRD in OSTP in the White House. So everybody has a role here. I think we need the White House to say, you need to do this, you go fix this, you need to do this. They can create awareness, right? They can put some money behind it, like the Metro Labs, which they're doing. The National Coordination Office can try to help us coordinate across the agencies. If you look at the end-to-end trust and security in medical devices, who do you need? Oh my gosh, you need like everybody. You need the FDA because of the devices. You might need NIH. You probably need some type of, HHS. You probably need insurance companies involved. So if you're going to bake this technology in, who's going to pay for it? Because when you do defense in depth, that's expensive, right? At the hardware, firmware, software, and service level. And then you need the industry players to play, but you need some adult supervision. So I think the government on the regulatory side needs to get involved. So when we had the end-to-end trust and security for IoT workshop, the next day IEEE hosted an ETAP workshop, Experts in Technology and Policy. And so then we brought the output from the technology discussion of what needed to be done, this TIP stuff, trust, identity, privacy, protection, safety, and security, into the policy discussion. and DHS was there, and some others were there. And then we can take this message to those types of folks and encourage them to actually start creating some policy. You may have seen last year that the FDA came out with, there was an insulin pump that's no longer manufactured, but it's still used. And they actually named it by brand, by model, and said, stop using this because it's hackable. Right? So I think there needs to be a combination. And I just got I think that means timeout, or? Okay. Oh, one more question, is that okay? Okay.
So how's the deployment of IPv6 going to support a lot of this? I mean, that's really the foundation this is going to have to run on.
It is. So it's moving. It's not all the way there. There's kind of a mix of IPv6 right now. There's the opportunity to leverage more PoE, in those type of environments. So actually, Steve Wallace, who's a technical advisor that works with me from Indiana University, wrote a paper on that. And I think it's on our wiki, on our Chief Innovation Officer, CINO wiki, in Internet 2. So it's a part of it. It's a part of the solution. But just like everything else, not everybody is going to be going over right away. So it's a mix of things still. And that's part of the challenge of IoT is the brownfield and the brownfield and the greenfield. The stuff you have to deal with and the stuff you can create new. So it's a combination. It's a hybrid right now, and it'll keep evolving, I believe. So thank you, everyone, for being here and for your comments and questions. Have a nice day.